Before my 5 minutes starts, I'd ask unanimous consent to add several letters from stakeholders into the record.
Without objection.
As of 2020, statistics show that Visa and MasterCard combined for 84% of all general purpose credit cards within the United States. Some have characterized this as a duopoly, able to extract above market payments for their services. So to Mr. Sheedy and Ms. Kirkpatrick, what would be your response to these concerns? And do Visa and MasterCard abuse market power? And then I'd like to have Mr. Cantor and Mr. Corrett listen and then respond. Mr. Sheedy, you want to start out?
Yes, Senator, thank you. Senator, we operate in a highly competitive market. Merchants have never had more choice at the checkout. Consumers have never had more choices to be able to pay. And one of the things that I think is important to understand about our payments network and the level playing field that we set with interchange is the same interchange flows through our network and gets passed to, in the same exact manner, to thousands of financial institutions across the United States, small banks and small credit unions to larger players. And they all compete with one another and innovate in that complex, very dynamic marketplace. And ultimately, the consumer wins from that competition. And when the consumer is empowered to transact with products that are tailored for them, and investments are made in the system to manage risk and keep the system secure with a high integrity, and that consumer is empowered to shop at the point of sale, the merchant benefits from that flow. So it's that balance that we're trying to accomplish, and any notion that we're not operating in a highly competitive market, we fundamentally disagree with.
Do you have anything to add, Ms. Kirkpatrick?
Yeah, I'd say the payments ecosystem has never been more competitive than it is today. In addition to the networks, as I discussed earlier, there are competition that comes from buy now, pay later providers, wallet providers, digital currencies, regional debit networks. The definition of market power is really an institution that can raise prices while also reducing consumption. And MasterCard's motivations are the exact opposite. We are motivated to drive more transactions through our network. That is how we generate revenue. That is how we win. So by virtue of that, we are incentivized to create balance across all stakeholders, both merchants and banks. If we set interchange rates too high, merchants won't accept. If we set interchange rates too low, banks won't issue. And so therefore, our goal is balance, and our goal is consumer value.
Mr. Cantor and then Ms. Corrett.
Thank you, Senator. Yeah, that's not the way it works. This is not a balancing of the marketplace because, look, economists at the Kansas City Federal Reserve have looked at this, and they've said because merchants and retail in the United States are so competitive, these fees can get set well beyond any semblance of value up until the only break point is where the retailers would actually lose money and go under for accepting the cards. And that's the one break point. And look, in other markets, we don't say because something has great value, we allow price setting centrally rather than competitive market prices to rule the day. As you talked about in your opening statement with beef prices and chicken prices and others, just because those are valuable products, many of us need to eat them, right, to survive, really important, but we wouldn't say, oh, then they can just centrally fix the prices, and that's okay. There needs to be a market system to discipline those prices. We don't have that here, and frankly, the innovation in other kinds of technologies and payments does not make up for the lack of innovation and the antitrust problem in credit cards. In fact, it really shines an incredible spotlight on the fact that we have not had that type of innovation in credit cards, and those haven't advanced. And the market power of Visa and MasterCard have been incredibly stubborn, and they've held on to that market, including ever since the Department of Justice won a Second Circuit decision finding, cert denied in the Supreme Court, that both Visa and MasterCard have market power in this market.
Ms. Corrett, add, but don't repeat.
I'll do my best. Thank you. I'd like to come at this from a slightly different angle. Our average store carries over 50,000 items. every single one of which is negotiated in terms of price, how we market it, how we merchandise it. When Procter & Gamble comes to talk to us about selling Tide, of which there are, let's say, 50 different sizes and flavors of it, they don't come in and say, you have to take all 50. They don't come in and say, take it or leave it. They don't come in and say, you can't promote it. You can't incent people to do one thing versus the other. Visa and MasterCard effectively control over 80% of the credit market, and they are the only vendor which we cannot negotiate with. And it's a take it or leave it proposition, and that, again, I'm not an economist, so I don't know what technically qualifies as a duopoly. That said, to me, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck,
I have two questions I'll submit for answer in writing.